Forced to marry the millionaire everyone calls a monster, but he became her only safe place. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The city lights of Seattle blurred into streaks of gold and white as Aria Collins ran barefoot across the rain-soaked pavement, the sound of her heartbeat drowning out everything else. Behind her, tires screeched too close. Someone shouted her name, a name she didn't remember choosing, a life she didn't remember choosing. She stumbled, gripping the strap of her duffel bag, breath breaking in her chest. Tonight was supposed to be an escape. Instead, the man everyone in the underworld feared, the monster of the Everett family, was waiting for her at the end of the alley, leaning against a black SUV like a shadow carved from asphalt. Damian Everett didn't smile. He rarely did. His voice came low, controlled, almost gentle, which somehow terrified her more. Running again, he asked, "Aria, you know this city can't keep you safe anymore, but I can." 2 steps and he was close enough that she could see the faint scar at the corner of his jaw, the one people whispered about, the one tied to rumors she had never dared to confirm. The man who bought companies, destroyed enemies, silenced threats, was now claiming her as his wife by morning. "Come with me," he said, holding out a hand, "or let them find you first." And Aria, choking on fear she couldn't fully explain, suddenly understood the only place more dangerous than standing beside him was walking away. Aria stared at Damian's hand like it was a trap and a lifeline threaded into one. Rain clung to his black suit, dripping from his hair, catching on lashes too dark to be real. Her lungs burned from running, but her mind was a louder battlefield. She didn't know why the men chasing her knew her name. She didn't know why her past followed her like a shadow stitched to her ankles. And she certainly didn't know why a man like Damian Everett, a billionaire with more enemies than allies, had decided she would be safer as his wife. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, too exhausted to hide the tremor in her voice. Damian didn't move closer, didn't force her. He simply lifted his chin toward the corner of the street. "Look." Aria followed his gaze. A black sedan rolled through the intersection slowly, windows tinted so dark they swallowed the streetlights. The car didn't stop. It didn't need to. Her blood iced anyway. She'd seen it earlier that day. Parked near her apartment. Parked near the diner where she worked. Parked near the bus stop she passed when she'd made the decision to leave Seattle forever. Her throat tightened. "They followed me." "They've been following you for weeks," Damian said. "The only reason you're still alive is because my men stayed ahead of them." He took a step forward, closing the space between them. "I told you I would give you time. I gave you more than I should have. But tonight..." He exhaled, a rare crack in his composure. "Tonight they got too close." Aria swallowed hard, tasting rain and panic on her tongue. She had spent her life avoiding danger, avoiding the dark corners of the city where powerful men like Damian ruled. But there was something in his voice, a tension, a contained fury that told her he wasn't lying. "Who are they?" she asked. Damian shook his head slightly. "Not here." He glanced again at the disappearing sedan. "We leave now." Aria stepped back. "I never agreed to marry you." "You don't have to agree," he said quietly. "Not yet." His eyes locked on hers. "But if you want to wake up tomorrow, you get in the car." A gust of cold wind swept through the alley, carrying the smell of rain and diesel. Aria's hands trembled. Damian Everett could destroy her life with a breath. Yet every instinct she had screamed that the men in that sedan would end her life before sunrise. Her silence stretched half a second, 2 seconds, 3. Damian's jaw tightened. "Aria," she whispered, "why are you helping me?" His answer was soft but struck her like a blow. "Because someone out there already marked you, and because I don't let anyone take what's mine." Her heart thudded painfully. "I'm not yours," she said. "Not yet," he replied. A sharp sound echoed metal hitting pavement. Aria flinched. A bullet casing rolled toward her foot. Someone had fired a suppressed shot from the far end of the alley. Damian's hand snapped around her wrist, pulling her close and shielding her with his body as another suppressed shot pinged against the wall. "Car, now," he ordered. Before she could think, Damian lifted her into the SUV, slammed the door, and signaled his driver. Tires spun, water splashed, and the city blurred past as they sped away. Aria pressed trembling palms to her knees, trying to force her breathing into something steady. Damian watched her in the dim cabin light, eyes searching her face like he was memorizing every shift of her expression. "You're safe," he said softly, but his voice held something far more terrifying than the gunfire behind them, something that felt like inevitability. "You'll stay safe," he added, "as long as you're with me." Aria turned her face toward the rain-streaked window, but she couldn't escape the truth settling deep in her bones. Tonight she hadn't run towards safety. She had run into the arms of the most dangerous man she'd ever meet. And for reasons she didn't understand, for the first time in months, she didn't feel like prey anymore. The SUV cut through Seattle's late-night traffic like a blade weaving past empty intersections and fog-slick streets. Aria sat rigid in the leather seat, fingers clenched tightly together, the heat from Damian's jacket barely warming her shaking body. Every time she blinked, she saw the flash of that bullet hitting the alley wall, felt the echo of danger thudding in her chest. Damian hadn't said a word since they left. He didn't have to. The tension rolling off him filled the entire car. Leo, the driver, kept glancing in the rearview mirror, jaw tight. "Tail's still on us, boss. Same sedan from earlier." Aria's stomach twisted. They're still following. Damian didn't look at her. His voice was steel. "They won't be for long." The SUV made a hard turn into an underground parking structure. The familiar gray concrete swallowed them whole as the gate clattered shut behind them. For a moment, the silence felt like a held breath until Damian finally turned toward her. "Out," he said quietly. Aria hesitated, fingers curling into the seat. "Where are we? Somewhere they can't reach you." He stepped out, waiting. "Aria." Hearing her name in that low, controlled tone sent a shiver down her spine. She forced herself to move, following him out into the dim, echoing garage. Two men stood there, already both dressed in black, both unmistakably armed. They were calm, too calm, like this was routine. Damian walked ahead without slowing. "This way." Aria followed him through a private elevator, up a silent hallway, and into a penthouse suite that overlooked the Puget Sound. The space felt less like a home and more like a secure fortress disguised by glass walls and expensive furniture. Damian closed the door behind them. The lock clicked. Aria froze. "You're safe here," he said, shrugging off his coat and tossing it aside. "No one gets in without going through me." Her voice shook. "What do they want? Why were they following me?" Damian turned to face her, fully hands in his pockets, eyes darker than the night outside. "Because someone out there knows who you are." She swallowed hard. "Who I am? I'm nobody. I've lived a quiet life for 3 years. 3 years," Damian repeated, studying her. "The same amount of time since the Collins case." Aria's pulse skipped. "What does that have to do with me?" Damian didn't answer. Not right away. Instead, he stepped closer, slow enough that she could have backed away. But she didn't. She couldn't. He looked down at her, voice low. "Why did you change your name, Aria?" Her breath caught. He knew. He had known. All along. "I don't know what you're talking about," she whispered. Damian's jaw tightened. "Don't lie to me. Not after tonight." He reached behind her, not touching her, but close enough that warmth radiated between them. His fingers brushed the door frame beside her shoulder as he trapped her in his gaze. "You were running before I found you," he murmured. "Changing jobs, changing addresses, never staying anywhere longer than 6 months. That's not normal unless you're hiding." Aria felt her knees weaken. "I'm not hiding from you." Damian's eyes softened, but only for a fraction of a second. "I know." He stepped back, giving her room to breathe. "I'm not your enemy, Aria. If I wanted to hurt you, I could have done it 100 times over." The terrible part was, she believed him, but believing him terrified her even more. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "Out of everyone in this city, why are you the one protecting me?" Damian exhaled slowly, a sound she'd never heard from him before. Not anger, not threat, something like conflict. "Because I know the men who are after you," he said. "And I know what they do to the people they target." Leo knocked on the door frame. Boss, we cleaned the alley. One shooter escaped. The other car disappeared near the docks. Damian nodded once. Double security. No one goes in or out. When Leo left, Damian returned to her with a strange intensity. You need to understand something, he said. Voice lowered. Tonight wasn't random. This wasn't a mugging gone wrong. This wasn't a stalker. He paused. This was an organized attempt. Aria's mouth went dry. Who sent them? We don't know yet. Why me? That Damian said is what scares me. Aria wrapped her arms around herself, cold, settling deep inside her. Damian saw it. His expression hardened, anger flashing behind his eyes, anger not at her, but for her. Sit, he ordered gently. She bristled. Don't order me. His lips twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. Then consider it a request. Aria hesitated, then sat on the edge of the sofa. Damian took a seat across from her, leaning forward with his forearms resting on his knees. Someone wants you gone, he said softly. And until I know who and why you stay with me. Aria shook her head. This wasn't part of our deal. You wanted a marriage arrangement, protection on paper, not this. Damian's jaw flexed. Protection isn't on paper. Protection is real. Her heart thudded painfully. You're acting like you actually care. Damian's eyes locked on hers, unblinking. I do. The words hit her like a physical shock. She opened her mouth to argue, but a sudden sharp buzz split the silence. Damian stood instantly, retrieving his phone. His expression darkened as he read the message. What is it? Aria asked. Damian looked up slowly, voice colder than she'd ever heard it. They found your old file, he said. The one that was supposed to be erased. Aria's blood froze. Someone just exposed your real identity, Damian continued. And they sent it to me directly. He stepped closer, tension radiating from him like heat. This means one thing, he said. Aria swallowed. What? Whoever is hunting you, Damian whispered, knows exactly where to find you now. A single loud crack shattered the quiet of the penthouse, sharp, metallic, unmistakably violent. Aria jerked upright on the couch, just as the window exploded inward, glass spraying across the room like shards of ice. Damian lunged, pushing her to the floor a split second before a bullet embedded itself in the wall where her head had been. Stay down, he ordered, voice like iron. Another shot whistled through the broken window. Damian grabbed her arm and pulled her behind the marble counter, shielding her completely with his body. She felt the vibration of his heartbeat through his shirt, fast, hard, but controlled. Leo's voice crackled through the intercom. Boss, perimeter breach, east side. Damian's eyes darkened. Find the shooter. I want him alive. Aria trembled, gripping the counter edge as shards of glass dug into her knees. They found me, she whispered. How did they find me so fast? Damian brushed the hair from her cheek, his touch both gentle and urgent. Because someone wants you dead badly enough to ignore every boundary I've set. He tilted her chin upward. Look at me. Are you hurt? She shook her head, but her breath came in shallow bursts. No, but that bullet was a warning. His voice dropped to a low growl. They were aiming to scare you, not kill you. That scares me more, she murmured. Damian's jaw flexed. He stood abruptly, scanning the room without letting her out of his reach. We're moving. Now. Before Aria could respond, he pulled her to her feet and guided her down the hallway. As they passed her bedroom, she froze. A small, perfect circle was blown through the window. The glass lay in a neat pattern on the floor, no chaos, just precision. Someone had deliberately targeted her room. Damian saw the fear creeping up her spine. Gently, he clasped the sides of her arms. From now on, you sleep in my room. Her pulse stumbled. Damian, no. I can't. You can, he said quietly. And you will. She shook her head, stepping back until she hit the wall. You can't just decide that. Damian leaned in, his voice a low rumble. There are two kinds of danger, Aria. The one outside. His gaze flicked to the shattered window. And the one I'm trying to keep away from you. She hated that his nearness made her chest warm instead of cold. She hated that she wanted to believe him. But the truth came out anyway. Why do you care if something happens to me? His expression shifted just slightly. Just enough. Because I've seen what they do to the people they target. He stepped closer, breath brushing her cheek. And because I would never let them touch you. Before she could respond, Leo's footsteps thundered down the hall. Boss Shooter escaped over the fence. But we found this. He handed Damian a small steel arrow, no bigger than Aria's palm. At the end, a faint black serpent was etched into the metal. Her breath hitched. That symbol. Damian looked at her sharply. You recognize it, she hesitated. I think so. From before. Damian's eyes darkened, but he said nothing. He led her deeper into the penthouse through a concealed door behind the bookshelf. The passage opened into a steel-lined room with no windows, no signals, only muted lighting and reinforced walls. Damian. Where are we? She breathed. This, he said, locking the door, is the only place no one can reach you. He handed her a blanket and guided her toward the bed. Sit. She reluctantly obeyed, watching him pace the room like a caged wolf. When his shirt shifted, she gasped. Blood. A long, fresh cut along his upper arm. You're her, Aria whispered, rising. It's nothing. Damian. She stepped closer, heart squeezing. Let me see. He hesitated, not out of pride, but something far more vulnerable, before lifting his arm. Aria tore a strip from the blanket's edge and wrapped the wound gently, fingers brushing warm skin. Damian inhaled sharply. Their eyes met, the air thickened. You don't have to do this, he murmured. You got shot because of me, she said softly. I can at least help. He caught her wrist, holding it against his chest. Aria, I wasn't shot because of you. I was shot because someone thinks taking you away is the only way to hurt me. Her breath stilled. Why? Damian didn't answer. Not immediately. Instead, he moved past her to the desk on the far side of the room. Papers were scattered across it, photos, maps, files. Aria froze when she saw them. Photos of a burned house, photos of her parents, photos of her years younger, terrified in a hospital bed. And at the top of the stack, stamped in red, stone family case. Closed. Her voice barely escaped her throat. Why? Why do you have these? Damian turned slowly. Shadows carved lines across his face. Because I was there the night they died. The room spun. Aria's knees gave way and she grabbed the desk for balance. No, she whispered. No, that's not possible. Damian stepped toward her. Aria, what were you doing there? She choked. Why were you anywhere near my family? He stopped an arm's length away, torment flickering through his eyes. Because someone wanted you dead, he said softly. And I needed you alive. She stared at him, breath shattering. He didn't move closer, didn't touch her again. His voice was a confession wrapped in a bruise. There are things you don't know yet, he said. But I promise you one thing. Whoever came for you tonight, this won't be the last attempt. Aria felt fear throb through her veins, icy and sharp, but she didn't look away. And what about you? She whispered. Should I be afraid of you too? Damian held her gaze, something raw and unguarded in his expression. No, he said quietly. You should be afraid of the world without me. Damian's words hung in the air like smoke, dense, suffocating, impossible to ignore. Aria stood frozen, her fingers still trembling above the file she had never meant to see, the past she had never wanted to relive. The safe room felt smaller now, its steel walls closing in, as if they too demanded the truth. What do you mean you were there? Aria whispered, barely recognizing her own voice. Damian didn't look away. His expression was carved from conflict, rage at someone unseen, and something softer, darker smoldering underneath. Exactly what I said. I was at your house the night your family died. Her breath hitched and the world blurred. The images in the file, her mother, her father, the flames tearing through their home, flashed through her mind like cruel ghosts. Why? She forced out. Why were you there? Damian stepped toward her slowly, like approaching someone on the edge of a cliff. Because I was hired to be. Aria flinched. To kill us, no. He closed, the distance voice, dropping. To pull someone else out. I was working a private protection job. The target I was assigned to shadow lived 2 houses down from you. When I arrived that night, I heard screaming, smoke, gunfire. His eyes softened. And then I heard you. Her knees weakened. A faint memory tugged at her blurry, like a dream, strong arms lifting her from the ground, running through smoke, a deep voice saying, "I've got you." "You," she breathed, "you saved me." Damian didn't answer, not directly. His silence told her more than his words ever could. He stepped past her and pulled up a video feed on the laptop. "This is what I didn't want you to see." Grainy infrared footage from 3 years ago appeared on the screen. A figure in black, Damian dragging a coughing, barely conscious teenage girl out of a burning house. The girl's hair was covered in ash. Her face was swollen with smoke. Aria pressed a hand to her mouth. "That's me." Damian nodded once. "They shot your father before they set the fire. Your mother tried to shield you. When I got there, the men were still inside. I took one out before he saw me. The others escaped." Her voice cracked. "And you just left me at a hospital. You didn't have any ID. You were barely breathing. If your attackers knew you survived, they would have come back for you." His hands tightened into fists. "So I erased your name, changed the records, made the world think the entire Collins family was gone." Aria stared at him, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Damian's stare darkened. "Because knowing the truth puts a target back on your back. And because—" He hesitated, something he never did. "Because I wasn't sure which parts of that night belonged to me and which parts belonged to the people who wanted you dead." She stepped back, shaking her head slowly. "Damian, how long have you known who I really am?" His silence was her answer. Aria's voice wavered. "You've known since the day we met, Aria." She held up a shaking hand. "Don't lie. You knew, all this time. You knew my name, my past, my face." Her throat tightened painfully. "You knew everything." Damian's jaw clenched. "I knew you were the girl I saved, and I knew if I didn't find you first, they would." "Who are they?" Aria whispered. He didn't step closer. His eyes grew colder, but not towards her. "A syndicate called Black Harbor. They were hired to erase the Collins name completely. But someone sabotaged their work. Someone let you live." Aria swallowed. "Who?" Damian looked at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw hesitation in his eyes. "I don't know. Not yet." A soft beep sounded from the desk. Damian's phone lit up with an emergency alert. He scanned the message, his face sharpening. "They're closer than I thought," he said quietly. "They breached the outer perimeter." Aria's chest tightened. "The shooters from earlier." Damian nodded once. "Possibly. Or someone worse." He opened a steel drawer and pulled out a small case. Inside was a tiny transmitter and a thin chain. He placed it into her hand. "Wear this," he said. "It tracks your location within 10 meters. Aria stiffened. "You want to monitor me. I want to keep you alive," Damian corrected. "And this," he tapped the file still trembling in her grasp, "is why." Aria exhaled shakily. "I didn't ask for protection. You didn't ask for a bullet through your window either," he shot back. "But it came for you anyway." Their eyes locked, fear burning in hers, fury burning in his, and beneath it all, something unspoken pulling them together like gravity. A sudden thud echoed from the hallway outside the safe room. Aria jolted, but Damian moved instantly, drawing his gun, stepping in front of her. "Don't move," he whispered. Another thud, muted voices, a faint scrape against metal. Damian's hand closed around her wrist, pulling her behind him. "If they've made it inside the penthouse, they'll check this room first." Aria's breath shook. "Damian, look at me," he murmured without turning. "Whatever happens, you stay behind me." The lock on the outer door clicked. Damian raised his weapon. Aria pressed a hand to his back, gripping the fabric of his shirt. The safe room door handle began to turn. Damian whispered one last word, low, steady, terrifyingly gentle. "Aria." She held her breath. "I won't let them take you. Not again." The door didn't open. Instead, a burst of static cracked through to Damian's earpiece, followed by Leo's voice shouting, "We've got a breach on the south cameras. They're trying to blind the feeds." "Move." Now Damian grabbed Aria's hand, pulled her toward the back exit of the safe room, and keyed in a code she couldn't see. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow hallway that led to a secured elevator. The walls vibrated with distant impacts. Someone was testing the outer defenses. "Where are we going?" Aria asked, breathless. "Somewhere they can't trace," Damian said. And somewhere we can get legally married before they make another attempt. Aria stumbled. Married. Now Damian didn't slow. It's the only way to claim legal guardianship and move you under my federal protection. They can't touch you once the paperwork is filed. That's not a marriage. That's a shield. His jaw tightened. Call it whatever you want, but it keeps you alive. The elevator shot upward. When it opened, they stepped straight into the dim underground garage. 2 SUVs waited with engines running, security already in position. Leo pulled open the rear door. Boss, that sedan is back. They're circling the block. Then we don't give them a window, Damian said, guiding Aria inside. The convoy sped through Seattle's rainy streets, weaving between lanes with precision. Aria's fingers gripped the seatbelt until her knuckles whitened. Where are we going? She whispered. City Hall, Damian answered. They opened the licensing office early. We're signing the papers before your enemies sign your death certificate. Aria stared at him. Damian, I'm not ready for this. You don't have to be ready, he said quietly. You just have to be alive. Her throat tightened. This wasn't romance. This was survival. But still, something in Damian's voice made the moment feel heavier, more intimate than she expected. The car slowed as they approached a large stone building. Morning fog clung to the steps. A few pedestrians walked by without noticing the danger swirling around them. Damian stepped out first. His hand slid to her lower back, guiding her quickly toward the entrance. His touch was warm, but firm, possessive without trying to be. Inside, the lobby was nearly empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A clerk behind the counter blinked in surprise at the 2 armed guards flanking Damian and Aria. Marriage license, Damian said, placing his ID on the counter. His voice held the weight of command. Aria watched him with her pulse hammering. She waited for the panic to swallow her whole. But instead, she felt strangely steady. Terrified, yes, but steadier with him than without. As she signed her name, her fingers trembled. Damian reached over and steadied her wrist, his touch sending a shiver through her. You're doing fine, he murmured. He shouldn't have said it like that. Soft, low, almost tender. Before their signatures dried, a sharp metallic crack echoed from outside the lobby, too sharp to be a slammed door. Damian reacted instantly, pushing Aria behind him just as the front window fractured in a spiderweb pattern. Shooter Leo yelled. The clerk screamed and ducked. Damian grabbed Aria's hand, again pulling her toward the back exit. We're leaving, he growled. But we didn't finish. Damian snatched the signed paperwork from the clerk's shaking hands. We're married enough. Move. Aria barely had time to breathe before he dragged her through a service corridor and into a rear stairwell. Heavy boots thundered above them, fighters, not police. Someone was already inside the building. Aria's chest tightened. They knew we were coming. Damian swore under his breath. Someone fed them the route, which means someone on my side has been bought. Her blood ran cold. A traitor. We'll deal with him later. Damian pulled her closer. Right now, we stay alive. They burst through an unmarked exit and into a loading bay behind the building. For a brief moment, it seemed clear until a masked man stepped out from behind a delivery truck, grabbing Aria by the wrist. She screamed. Damian spun, murderous fury erupting across his face. Let her go. The man yanked Aria toward the alley. She fought, twisting and clawing. Damian. A gunshot rang out, but not from Damian. Leo fired from the stairwell. The masked man jerked back, losing his grip. Aria fell forward straight into Damian's arms. He caught her like something fragile, hands locking around her waist. You okay? He breathed. She nodded shakily, heart pounding against his chest. He didn't let go of her, not even when Leo shouted, Boss, we need to move. Now Damian's thumb brushed her cheek just once, just barely. Then he lifted his eyes cold and lethal. Back to the car. They sprinted toward the SUV. Damian pushed Aria inside so fast she barely processed the motion. The convoy tore away from City Hall, leaving the gunmen collapsing behind them. For a long moment, the only sound in the car was Aria's ragged breathing. Finally, she whispered, They weren't trying to kill you. They were trying to kill me. Damian met her gaze, his own filled with something raw and furious. Yes, he said quietly, because they know exactly who you are. Aria swallowed hard. And you, Damian reached for her hand, threading their fingers together with a steadiness she didn't expect. I'm the only one who intends to keep you alive. The safe house in Los Angeles was nothing like the penthouse in Seattle. It was smaller, quieter built, more for survival than comfort. Still, Aria felt exposed the moment Damian shut the reinforced door behind them. She stood in the entryway, drenched in adrenaline and fear, watching him lock 3 separate deadbolts with movements that were too practiced, too precise. Sit, he said softly, though his tone left little room for argument. Aria didn't move, no. Not until you tell me everything you've been hiding. Damian turned slowly, the faint glow from the hallway lamp carving shadows across his face. There was blood on his sleeve from a wound he still hadn't let her examine, and exhaustion clung to him like a second skin. Even so, his eyes were sharp, watchful, dangerous. This isn't the right moment, he said. No, Aria whispered, stepping forward. This is exactly the moment. For the first time since the attack, Damian hesitated. Aria swallowed, voice trembling. 3 men tried to kill me in the last 24 hours. You dragged me across the state. You forced a marriage license into my hands, and you still won't tell me why. Her breath shook. Tell me the truth, Damian. What happened the night my family died? He exhaled slowly, like someone releasing a weight he'd held for years. Sit, he repeated, but this time it wasn't an order. It sounded like a plea. Aria sat on the edge of the sofa, fingers twisting together. Damian remained standing, pacing once before stopping in front of her. I need you to listen without interrupting, he said quietly. Some parts will hurt. She nodded, feeling her heartbeat in her throat. Damian took a breath. 3 years ago, the Collins family was not targeted at random. Your father discovered something dangerous. He uncovered a laundering scheme inside one of the shell companies connected to the Everett conglomerate. Aria stiffened. Your family's company, yes. Damian's voice hardened. He tried to report it, but the people behind the operation contracted a syndicate to silence him. Black Viper. She remembered the symbol, the cold serpent etched into that arrow. Aria's breath hitched. So they killed my family because of something your company did? Damian shook his head. Not my company. My father's. I was not part of his dealings. But when the order went out, it was too late for me to stop it. Her stomach clenched. You knew. You knew and you didn't, Aria, he interrupted, stepping closer. I didn't know until the night it happened. His eyes burned with something raw. The night of the fire, I was already tracking a Viper cell for another job. When I heard the shots, I ran toward the noise. I saw your father fall. I tried to get to your mother before they shot her too. He paused. I didn't make it in time. Tears blurred Aria's vision. She pressed a hand to her mouth. Damian continued, voice barely above a whisperer. You were unconscious under the stairs. The house was collapsing. I carried you out. A muscle in his jaw ticked. I killed one of the men before the rest escaped. Aria's voice trembled. Then why let me think my whole family died and that I was just found? Why erase my name? Because the men who killed your parents didn't know you survived, he said. And because if they had known, they would have come back to finish the job. Damian crouched in front of her, his face close, his gaze unwavering. I did what I had to do. I rewrote your hospital records, hid you under a new name, moved you to the other side of the city. I thought it would be enough. She shook her head painfully. And now they know. Yes, Damian said, voice grave, because someone within my organization leaked it. Aria stiffened. Someone working for you. A traitor. His tone turned lethal. Someone who knew you mattered to me. Aria blinked. To you? Her voice cracked. Why would I matter to you? Damian didn't flinch. Because I didn't forget you. His thumb brushed her cheekbone gently, hesitantly. Because I checked on you. Because I kept you alive. His voice lowered. And because somewhere along the line, you became more than a duty. Her chest tightened painfully. Damian. Before she could say more, the front door monitor blinked. Leo's voice came through the intercom. Boss, we recovered something from the scene. Damian stood immediately, mask of control snapping back into place. Bring it in. Leo entered with a small evidence bag. Inside was a tiny voice chip. Damian loaded it into the portable reader. A distorted voice crackled through the speaker. Finish what was started 3 years ago. Kill the girl. Aria's blood ran cold. Damian's hand closed around the device so tightly it cracked. "They're escalating," he said darkly. "This isn't a warning anymore. This is a declaration." Aria felt herself sinking into the sofa. "Why now? Why are they coming for me now?" Damian's jaw clenched. "Because your existence threatens someone, and because I've kept you alive long enough for them to realize you're not a loose end. They think you're a weapon." Aria wrapped her arms around herself. "What am I supposed to do?" Damian stepped in front of her, gripping her shoulders firmly. "Stay with me. Let me fight this. Let me protect you." Her voice was barely a breath. "I don't know if I can trust you." His fingers gentled. "I know, but trust this, I didn't save you 3 years ago, just to lose you now." The room fell silent. Then Aria whispered the first thought she'd been afraid to say aloud. "What exactly happened that night? Damian, what aren't you telling me?" Damian's expression shifted, shadows deepening, secrets rising. "There's more," he said quietly. "Much more." Aria's heart pounded. "Then tell me," she whispered. Damian's next words were soft, aching, and terrifying all at once. "I wasn't the only one at your house that night." Damian didn't move for several seconds, as if weighing the cost of every word he was about to confess. Aria waited, heart pounding hard enough to echo in her ears. Finally, he stepped back, exhaling slowly, his control slipping for the first time. "Someone else was in your house the night of the fire," he said. "Someone I didn't expect. Someone who shouldn't have been there." Aria's hands tightened on the edge of the sofa. "Who?" Damian met her gaze, his eyes shadowed with a guilt that felt years old. "My father." The room seemed to close in around her. "Your father," she whispered. "Damian, are you telling me your father was there when my family was—" "Yes." Damian's voice carried a mixture of fury and shame. He was working with the people who issued the order, not directly with Black Viper, but with the group funding them. "Your father threatened the wrong stream of money, and my father wanted it fixed." Aria stared at him, breath caught somewhere between disbelief and horror. "Your father ordered my family's death." Damian's jaw tightened. "No, he didn't give the orders, but he allowed it. That's why I left the Everett Empire. That's why I broke ties with him. I swore I'd dismantle everything he built. But before I could do anything, the Vipers moved too fast." Aria pressed a hand against her chest, feeling the ache deep in her ribs. "So you saved me, because you wanted to undo his crime." Damian shook his head. "No, I saved you because when I saw you unconscious, covered in smoke, barely breathing, I knew you didn't deserve any of it. And I knew I wouldn't let you die for what someone else did." Her throat tightened painfully. She didn't trust her voice enough to speak. Damian continued. "I found my father in the driveway that night. I confronted him. We fought, and he told me something I didn't believe until recently." Aria's gaze locked on his. "What? That not everyone in your family died?" Her breath stopped. Damian's voice lowered. "Your younger brother survived. For a few minutes, long enough to be taken." A chill tore through her spine. "Taken by who?" He hesitated. "Your mother's long-lost cousin, a man named Raphael Bishop. He had strong ties to a private security group, unofficial, off-the-books, dangerous. He claimed he was extracting the boy to keep him safe." Aria felt dizzy. "You're telling me my baby brother survived and someone took him?" Damian nodded slowly. "My father told me after our fight. I didn't believe him because there was no trace, no record, nothing. Everyone assumed the fire consumed everything." Aria pressed a trembling hand to her forehead. "Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" "Because I had no proof. And because you already carried enough pain." She shook her head, stepping back from him. "No, you don't get to decide what pain I can carry. Damian, this is my family." He reached for her, but stopped himself just inches from her arm. "I know. And I'm telling you now because something changed. The traitor in my organization, the one leaking information, sent a message. They mentioned the boy." Aria's breath caught. "What did they say?" "That he's alive." The room spun for a moment before she steadied herself. Tears welled in her eyes, part shock, part desperate hope. "Where is he? I don't know yet," Damian said, voice low. "But I have a lead. Raphael Bishop resurfaced in Arizona 6 months ago, under a false identity, and someone matching your brother's age and features was seen with him." Aria swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe. Then we have to go. We have to find him. Aria, her voice shattered with urgency. This is my brother. I thought he was dead. I thought I lost everyone. If he's alive, I have to go. Damian, I can't stay here. He stepped toward her, placing his hands gently but firmly on her shoulders. Listen to me. If you walk out of this safe house right now, you will die. The Vipers aren't the only ones after you anymore. Whoever leaked your existence wants you dead before you can surface, before you can expose what happened. You think I care about myself right now, Aria cried. He's alive. Damian, he's alive. Aria? Damian's voice cracked barely, but she heard it. I will help you find him. I swear it. But not like this. Not running into a trap. She closed her eyes, swallowing her sobs. I can't lose him again. Damian cupped her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks. You're not losing him, and you're not doing this alone. But you need to trust me, just this once. She opened her eyes and found his gaze steady, fierce almost, pleading. After several long seconds, she whispered, Then tell me what we do now. Damian exhaled relief and tension intertwining. We track Raphael, we identify who leaked the intel, and we prepare for whoever's watching us. He paused. Because someone is. Aria frowned. What do you mean? Damian walked to the window and pulled aside the blackout curtain a fraction. A sleek black sedan idled across the street, windows tinted. They're not Vipers, he said. Different formation, different discipline. Aria felt the breath leave her body. Then who are they? Damian let the curtain fall back into place. That's what scares me. He turned to her, expression shifting from strategist to something painfully human. Aria, he said quietly, I need you close. No disappearing, no running toward danger alone. You and I were in this together now. She nodded slowly, still trembling. Damian stepped closer, lowering his voice. Tonight you sleep in the same room, not because you're in danger, but because I need to know you're safe. Her breath hitched, heat rising to her cheeks. In the same room, in the same bed if you have to, he murmured. I won't touch you, but I won't have you where I can't reach you. Her pulse raced. She didn't trust him, she didn't forgive him, but somehow, as the world closed in around them, he was the only place she didn't feel alone. The storm hit Los Angeles just past midnight, sheets of rain hammering the safe house roof like a warning. Aria sat on the edge of the bed, pulling her knees to her chest, unable to rest despite Damian's promise that he would stay nearby. Thunder cracked through the sky and her pulse jumped every time the shadows outside shifted. The bathroom door opened, and Damian stepped out, hair damp, a towel around his neck. He paused when he saw her sitting awake, tense and small against the backdrop of lightning through the curtains. You're supposed to be sleeping, he said gently. I can't, Aria whispered. He crossed the room without hesitation and sat beside her close enough that the warmth from his body eased the chill in her bones. Is it fear, he asked quietly, or something else? Aria stared at her hands. It's everything. My family, the fire, the men after me, the brother I never knew survived, and the fact that someone inside your own organization is betraying you. She hesitated. And that you still saved me again. Damian's jaw flexed slightly. I didn't do it because you needed saving. Then why, she asked, voice barely audible. His answer came low, steady, and without hesitation. Because you matter. Before she could respond, Leo's encrypted alert pinged through the security panel. Damian rose instantly, all warmth vanishing as he snapped into command mode. He approached the console, fingers flying across the interface. Leo's voice came through, strained. Boss, we've got movement. 3 unidentified vehicles circling the perimeter. Same SUV type as the group you spotted earlier. Aria stood. The ones who aren't Vipers. Yes, Damian said. They're not leaving, and they're not scared of being seen. Leo added, and boss, one of them stepped out. He's holding a white flag. Damian's eyes narrowed. White flag, yeah. Says he wants to talk. Aria's stomach tightened. Is that a trap? Yes, Damian said, but it's one we can use. Before she could argue, Damian was already moving, retrieving his gun, slipping into a tactical jacket and pulling an earpiece from the drawer. Stay inside, Aria. No exceptions. She bristled. You can't go alone. I'm not, he said. Leo and Marcus are flanking the exits, but negotiations with unknown entities are unpredictable. I won't risk you out there. Aria stepped in front of him, blocking the door. Damian, what if they came because of me? Her voice cracked. What if they know about my brother? His expression shifted from controlled to something almost feral. If they mention your brother, he said, I'll put a bullet in the messenger before he finishes the sentence. Damian. He lifted a hand, brushing his thumb briefly along her jawline, an anchor in the chaos. I'll come back. Then he slipped out the door. Aria hovered near the window, watching the shadow of Damian step into the rain-soaked street. The man waiting wore a bulletproof vest and carried no visible weapon. He raised his hands in a universal signal of peace. But Damian didn't relax, not even slightly. Aria strained to hear through the rain, picking up only fragments. Not Viper, sent by Bishop. Her breath caught. Bishop? Raphael Bishop, the man who'd taken her brother. Damian's posture stiffened lethal. The messenger spoke again, louder this time. We need her alive. Bishop says she's leverage. Aria didn't hear the rest because Damian moved too fast, slamming the man into the hood of the SUV so hard the metal dented. Leo and Marcus swarmed the area, guns drawn. The messenger screamed something unintelligible as Damian pressed a forearm into his throat. Aria's blood went ice cold. Leveraged. They wanted her alive to use her against someone. Against what? She backed away from the window, hands shaking, trying to breathe through the dread rising in her throat. When the door finally opened, Damian strode inside, drenched in furious rain, dripping from his jacket. Aria rushed forward. What happened? Is he alive? Damian growled. Unfortunately. What did he say? Aria asked. Damian hesitated only a moment before answering. Bishop knows you survived, and he wants you delivered to him intact. Her breath stuttered, why Damian's voice hardened. Because your brother's not just alive anymore, Aria. He's been groomed, trained, conditioned. Bishop has turned him into a weapon. Aria's heart stopped. No, that's not possible. He was just a child. Damian rubbed a hand down his face, exhausted but unflinching. Bishop takes in orphans from wealthy families he's destroyed. He molds them into operatives. He calls them his heirs. Your brother is one of them. No, Aria whispered, collapsing onto the edge of the bed. He couldn't. Damian crouched in front of her. Aria, listen to me. Bishop is using him. Your brother doesn't remember his childhood. Bishop erased everything, including you. Her tears fell freely. Damian, how do we get him back? We don't retrieve him, Damian said. We dismantle Bishop's operation and extract him. But we can't do that if Bishop has you. Aria wiped her tears with trembling fingers. Then you said no to them, right? Damian gave a humorless smile. I didn't just say no, I sent a message. Bishop won't misinterpret. What message? That if he wants you, Damian said quietly, he'll have to come through me, and he won't survive it. Lightning lit the room, casting Damian in stark contrast, drenched, furious, protective in a way that terrified and comforted her all at once. Aria drew a shaky breath. Do you think he'll come for me? Damian rose slowly. I don't think Aria. He walked to the window, sweeping the dark street with a cold, lethal gaze. I know. She hugged her arms around herself. And what happens when he does? Damian turned eyes, locking onto hers with quiet finality. Then we go to war. The storm outside surged, rattling the windows as if the sky itself understood what was coming. Aria woke to an unnatural stillness, the kind that didn't belong in a city like Los Angeles. No distant traffic, no footsteps on the street, no wind rattling the windows, just silence, deep, heavy, wrong. She sat up slowly, her pulse thudding as she scanned the dim room. Damian wasn't beside her. His side of the bed was cold. Before fear could fully sink its teeth in, the door opened quietly, and Damian stepped inside. He held a small tablet in one hand, his expression composed but tense. You're awake, he said softly. Aria pushed the blanket aside. What happened? Why is it so quiet? Damian crossed the room and set the tablet on the nightstand. Because Bishop wants it that way. He shut down the street, blocked off signals. He's testing our response time. Aria's breath stilled. He's here, no, Damian said. But his men are. They're watching the house. They're waiting. For me, she whispered. For both of us, he corrected. Aria rose from the bed and stepped closer to him. What did the tablet show? Damian's jaw flexed, but he handed it to her. The screen displayed a grainy photo captured from a drone feed. A boy, 17, maybe 18, standing beside a black SUV, his posture rigid military, his eyes cold, empty, trained on the front of the safe house. Aria's hand flew to her mouth. "My brother." "Yes," Damian said quietly. "That's him." She stared at the image, tears forming, not because she didn't recognize him, but because she did. The curve of his jaw, his father's chin, her mother's eyes now drained of their warmth. "I have to talk to him," Aria whispered. "Damian, I have to." Damian stepped in front of her, voice gentle but firm. "You can't walk out there. He's been conditioned to see you as a threat. Bishop programmed him to obey only one command: secure or eliminate." Aria felt the words like ice sinking into her skin. "He'd kill me." "Not because he wants to," Damian said. "Because Bishop trained him to." Her sob caught in her throat. "Then how do we reach him? I can't lose him again." Damian took her hands and squeezed them. "You won't, but the only way to free him is to expose Bishop. And Bishop will come for you the moment he realizes his leverage is slipping." Aria nodded slowly, wiping her tears. "Then we force him out." Damian looked at her for a long moment. "You're braver than you think." "I'm terrified," she said. "Courage isn't the absence of fear." Damian cupped her cheek gently. "It's choosing to fight anyway." Before she could reply, Leo's voice crackled through the encrypted intercom. "Boss, they're moving." Damian stiffened. How many? 3 vehicles, 2 advancing, 1 holding back with the kid. Aria's breath caught. "He's here." Damian grabbed his gun and guided her behind him. "Stay close. Don't leave my sight no matter what happens." They moved down the hallway, footsteps silent on the hardwood floor. Outside, engines rumbled. Boots hit pavement. The storm from last night had passed, leaving behind a dense fog that curled around the house like smoke. Damian pressed his back to the wall beside the front window, peeking through the smallest gap. "Bishop's not here, just his men. He wants to soften us first." Aria swallowed. "And my brother, still standing back," Damian replied. "He's watching." Thunder rolled in the distance, distant, delayed, but the tension in the air was heavier than any storm. The first assailant stepped onto the porch. Damian didn't wait. The door swung open and Damian moved with lethal precision, disarming and disabling the man before he could blink. The second attacker lunged from the side, but Aria shouted a warning, giving Damian the half-second he needed to strike him down. Then the third man approached slowly, intentionally, with hands lifted. Damian raised his weapon. "Don't move." The man smiled. "Bishop has a message." Aria's blood ran cold. The man's eyes flicked to her. "Bring the girl. The boy is ready for extraction. Bishop wants her delivered alive." Damian fired a warning shot inches from his boot. "Tell Bishop he'll get her over my dead body." The man's smirk widened. "That's the idea." Before Damian could react, the man pressed a small device on his wrist, and a flashbang detonated 2 feet away. Aria fell backward, blinded ears ringing. She felt herself hit the hardwood floor and scrambled desperately to orient herself. Through the chaos, she heard Damian yelling her name. Strong arms wrapped around her, not grabbing but shielding as another explosion rocked the street. Damian pulled her to the far hall, covering her body with his. "Aria, look at me," he said, voice strained. "Are you hurt? I can't hear," she whispered. He cupped her face. "Stay with me. I'm here." The sound returned slowly, muffled at first, then clearer. Outside, shouting erupted, and then target in sight. The voice was young, cold, familiar. Aria froze. "Damian! He's coming!" Damian rose, pulling her up with him. "Stay behind me. If he steps inside, I can disarm him without killing him, but you must not run to him. Do you understand?" She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. A silhouette appeared in the doorway, tall, rigid, dressed in tactical black. Her brother. No longer a boy, no longer someone she recognized. Damian steadied his weapon, lowering it slightly to avoid provoking him. "Don't come in," Damian warned. "Your fight is not with us." The boy stepped forward, eyes locked on Aria. Emotion flickered for a fraction of a second, confusion, pain, before a trained blankness returned. "Aria," he said. Her name sounded foreign on his tongue. "Come with me." She stepped forward before she could stop herself. I'm your sister. He frowned. I have no family. Her voice cracked. You do. You have me. For the first time, something changed in his expression, a tremor of recognition, a fracture in the conditioning. Damian lowered his weapon further. Fight it. She's not your enemy. The boy shook his head violently, clutching it as if in pain. Bishop said. He lied, Aria whispered. He stole you. He hurt you, but you survived, and I'm right here. Her brother dropped to one knee, breathing hard. It wasn't victory, not yet, but the conditioning was breaking. Damian grabbed Aria's wrist. We move now, before Bishop sends reinforcements. Aria nodded, helping support her brother as they slipped through the back exit into the fog. For the first time since the fire 3 years ago, she wasn't running alone. By the time they reached the car, the sun was rising over the city, a fragile promise of survival. Aria looked at Damian, her voice soft. Thank you. He met her gaze, tenderness flickering beneath the steel. I told you, you're not alone anymore. And for the first time, she believed him. If you felt your heart racing through this chapter or want to see where Aria and Damian go next, don't forget to comment your favorite moment and subscribe so you never miss the next story. Your support keeps these modern romance journeys alive.